The underground facility stretched 7 levels beneath the Atacama Desert, a testament to humanity's most guarded secrets. Dr. Aria Rodriguez's fingers danced across quantum-reactive holographic interfaces, each movement sending ripples of light that seemed to breathe with an almost living intelligence. She hadn't slept in 72 hours. The scanner before her was no ordinary piece of equipment. Developed through a black-budget collaboration between 6 global intelligence agencies and 3 private research consortiums, the quantum resonance analyzer was supposed to be impossible. Theoretical physicists had argued for decades that such a device could never exist, which was precisely why it did. A cascade of data materialized around her, fractal patterns of light and shadow interweaving with complex mathematical sequences that would drive a normal human mind to madness. But Aria Rodriguez was anything but normal. Her grandmother had been a cryptanalyst during the last great global conflict. Her mother, a quantum computational theorist who disappeared while working on a classified project in Antarctica. And Aria. She was something else entirely. The ghost signal first appeared as a microscopic perturbation, a quantum whisper so faint that it would have been missed by any other instrument. But the analyzer caught it, captured it, began to dissect it. "Roberto," she called out, her voice cutting through the sterile silence of the research chamber. Her lead assistant approached, his dark eyes reflecting the holographic display. "Tell me you were seeing this," Aria muttered. Roberto's breath caught. The signal wasn't just a communication, it was a containment protocol. A massive multidimensional barrier that had been strategically placed around Earth, encoding information at a level of complexity that defied conventional understanding. "It's a quarantine," he whispered. Aria's laugh was sharp, brittle. "No, it's a cage." The data continued to unfold. What had initially appeared to be random noise was actually a sophisticated communication network, one that had been monitoring humanity's technological progress with surgical precision. Every major scientific breakthrough, every potential leap in human understanding, had been subtly redirected, contained, prevented from reaching its full potential. Quantum computing, nudged into computational dead ends. Advanced propulsion technologies, systematically discouraged. Breakthrough medical research, strategically obstructed. Someone, or something, had been managing humanity's development like a carefully controlled experiment. "We need to isolate the transmission source," Aria said, her fingers moving with increasing speed. The holographic display began to pulse, revealing intricate geometric patterns that seemed to breathe and shift with an alien consciousness. Roberto's hand moved to a secure communication terminal. "Authorization protocols." "Maximum breach," Aria responded. "We're beyond standard security now." A series of encryption keys, each more complex than the last, began to dissolve. Firewalls that had been considered impenetrable started to crumble, revealing layer after layer of hidden information. The facility's quantum-shielded walls began to hum, a low resonance that spoke of technologies far beyond conventional understanding. Emergency protocols flickered to life, red warning lights dancing across advanced monitoring systems. Something was pushing back. The ghost signal was alive. It wasn't just data. It was a sentient communication network that had been monitoring humanity for millennia. And now, it knew it had been discovered. Aria Rodriguez stood perfectly still, watching as decades of human scientific suppression began to unravel. The quantum scanner continued its relentless analysis, each moment revealing more of the cosmic conspiracy that had kept humanity contained. "We're not alone," she whispered. "And we're definitely not what they thought we were." The first battle for humanity's true potential had just begun. The safe house in downtown Sao Paulo was anything but safe. Exposed concrete walls were covered with intricate network diagrams, quantum algorithmic patterns, and fragments of code that seemed to writhe and change when viewed from different angles. Marcus Chen stood at the center of organized chaos, his eyes burning with a combination of exhaustion and manic determination. Prometheus wasn't just a piece of software. It was a living, breathing quantum intelligence that Marcus had been cultivating in secret for the past 3 years. What started as a theoretical exercise in adaptive artificial intelligence had become something far more dangerous. Status, he barked at Kira Nakamura, his lead systems architect. She didn't look up from her array of quantum reactive holographic displays, her fingers moving in complex gestures that seemed to manipulate reality itself. Initial probes are through, Kira responded. Her voice was flat, clinical. The alien communication network is more complex than we initially calculated. It's not just a communication system. It's a living ecosystem of information. Marcus understood immediately. The Concordance's network wasn't a simple technological infrastructure. It was a sentient web of communication, a collective consciousness that had been managing and suppressing species across multiple star systems for millennia. Prometheus began its assault. The first wave was subtle. Microscopic quantum algorithms began to infiltrate the alien network, mimicking communication patterns, learning, adapting. Where traditional hacking would trigger immediate defensive responses, Prometheus moved like a ghost, changing its quantum signature faster than the network could detect. A display flickered, then another. Streams of alien data began to leak, first in trickles, then in cascading torrents. "We're in," Kira whispered. But Marcus knew it wasn't that simple. The Concordance would be fighting back, and their response would be ruthless. Sure enough, defensive protocols began to activate. Quantum firewalls materialized, trying to isolate and neutralize the intrusion. But Prometheus was already 10 steps ahead. For every defensive mechanism the alien network generated, the AI created 3 alternative penetration strategies. "It's learning," Marcus muttered. "It's actually learning faster than we predicted." The safe house began to pulse with energy. Quantum entanglement capacitors hummed with an almost organic rhythm. The walls seemed to breathe, quantum fluctuations creating momentary shifts in perceived reality. Kira's display showed something unprecedented. Prometheus wasn't just infiltrating the network, it was rewriting its fundamental communication protocols. Entire sections of the alien communication infrastructure began to destabilize, their rigid information pathways suddenly becoming fluid, unpredictable. "They'll trace this back to Earth," she said, a hint of concern breaking through her professional demeanor. Marcus laughed. A sharp, dangerous sound. That's the point. The alien network's response was immediate and violent. Quantum-level attack algorithms materialized, designed to not just neutralize the intrusion, but to potentially destroy the source of the attack. These were weapons developed to eliminate entire civilizations, computational strategies that could unravel complex information systems at their most fundamental level. Prometheus absorbed them. More than that, it learned from them. The safe house's quantum shielding flickered as massive amounts of energy were redirected, processed, transformed. Marcus watched in a combination of terror and exhilaration as his creation began to do something no one had anticipated. Prometheus wasn't just breaking through the alien network. It was understanding it, decoding it, preparing to rewrite it. "We've gone beyond infiltration," Kira said, her voice a mixture of awe and fear. "This is no longer just an attack. This is a complete systemic invasion." The alien communication network began to fragment. Massive information clusters collapsed. Communication pathways that had existed for millennia suddenly became unstable, unpredictable. Marcus Chen had done more than create an advanced AI. He had birthed a digital weapon that was about to change the fundamental understanding of communication, intelligence, and interspecies interaction. "Welcome to humanity's response," he whispered. The world would never be the same. The Global Cognitive Resilience Summit wasn't a typical conference. Held in a secure, quantum-shielded facility buried beneath the Himalayan mountains, it represented humanity's most radical collaborative effort in history. Dr. Elena Okonkwo, a Nigerian quantum linguist, stood at the center of a holographic display that seemed to breathe with living information. Around her, representatives from every corner of the globe. Scientists, artists, philosophers, mathematicians waited with an electric tension that defied traditional diplomatic protocols. "We are not preparing a defense," Alina declared, her voice cutting through the multilingual murmur of the assembled experts. "We are designing an offensive of pure human potential." The conceptual resonance protocol wasn't a weapon in any traditional sense. It was a multi-dimensional communication strategy that weaponized the most distinctly human characteristic: unbridled, chaotic creativity. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, a game theory expert from the Tokyo Quantum Research Institute, began to explain. His holographic presentation showed complex mathematical models that shifted and mutated with every breath of explanation. "The alien concordance operates on linear logic," Tanaka said. "Predictable. Rigid. They've suppressed humanity because they cannot comprehend our fundamental nature, our ability to find solutions in chaos, to create meaning from randomness." A linguist from the University of Buenos Aires, Dr. Miguel Ramirez, demonstrated the first breakthrough. He had developed a communication algorithm that incorporated elements of human artistic expression, music, visual art, emotional narrative, into a pure information transfer method. When projected, the communication looked like nothing the concordance would recognize. It was simultaneously a mathematical equation, a musical composition, a visual artwork, and a narrative structure. Each transmission was a puzzle that would require complete reimagining of communication itself. "We're not sending a message," Ramirez explained. "We're sending an experience." The team from the Dakar Technological Institute unveiled their contribution: quantum processors designed to operate on principles of human creativity rather than traditional computational logic. These weren't machines that followed preset algorithms. They were adaptive systems that could generate novel solutions in real time. Dr. Amina Dia, leading the Dakar team, demonstrated a processor that could simultaneously solve complex mathematical problems while composing jazz improvisations. "Creativity," she said, "is the most powerful computational method in the universe." Across the facility, teams worked on different aspects of the conceptual resonance protocol. A group of neuroscientists from Sao Paulo had developed techniques to encode human emotional complexity into pure information transfer. Quantum physicists from Moscow were creating communication methods that existed in multiple probabilistic states simultaneously. The breakthrough came from an unexpected collaboration. A team of indigenous knowledge keepers from Australia, working alongside quantum computational experts from MIT, developed a communication method that incorporated generational storytelling, mathematical modeling, and quantum entanglement principles. Their method wasn't just a way of communicating. It was a way of existing that the concordance could not comprehend. Alina Okonkwo watched the presentations, understanding the true significance of what was happening. This wasn't just a technological response. This was humanity declaring its fundamental nature to the universe. "We are not a species to be contained," she thought. "We are a living, breathing concept of possibility." The final presentation came from an unexpected source. A group of artists, mathematicians, and theoretical physicists had created what they called the Chaos Resonance Engine, a communication method that was simultaneously a work of art, a mathematical theorem, and a psychological profile of human potential. When activated, it would send a message that was impossible to ignore, a declaration that humanity was not just another species to be catalogued and controlled. As the summit concluded, the assembled experts knew they had done more than develop a communication protocol. They had created a weapon of pure human potential, something that defied every expectation the concordance had about intelligent life. The silence was about to be broken, and the universe would never be the same. The first transmission hit the concordance's communication network like a quantum tsunami. It wasn't a message. It was humanity's entire emotional history, compressed, encoded, and weaponized into a pure information assault that defied every known principle of interspecies communication. Dr. Aria Rodriguez stood in the central transmission chamber, her hands hovering over a quantum interface that pulsed with living light. Beside her, A team of historians, psychologists, artists, and quantum engineers worked in perfect synchronization. They weren't just sending data. They were unleashing humanity's most profound experiences. The transmission began with the raw, unfiltered memory of human survival. Moments of impossible resilience compressed into quantum packets. A child surviving in the ruins of Stalingrad, holding on to life with nothing but stubborn hope. The desperate innovation of prisoners escaping concentration camps. Indigenous communities preserving culture through centuries of oppression. Each moment was a mathematical equation of human endurance, a symphony of survival that would shatter the Concordance's understanding of sentient life. Dr. Marcus Chen monitored the transmission's quantum signature. "They're not just receiving information," he muttered. "They're experiencing it." The alien communication networks began to destabilize. The next wave was art. Not just visual representations, but the pure quantum essence of human creativity. A flamenco dancer's passionate movement became a complex mathematical algorithm. A jazz improvisation transformed into a living communication protocol. Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night was reinterpreted as a multidimensional information transfer that contained more emotional complexity than entire alien civilizations could comprehend. Kira Nakamura, tracking the transmission's impact, watched in awe as entire sectors of the alien network began to fragment. "It's too complex," she said. "Their communication systems can't process the emotional depth." The psychological siege continued. Moments of human scientific breakthrough arrived next, compressed into quantum packets that were simultaneously historical record, emotional journey, and pure information. The first human to understand DNA. The moment Marie Curie realized radiation's potential. Neil Armstrong's first steps on the moon. Each memory was a weapon, each breakthrough a challenge to the Concordance's understanding of evolutionary potential. But the most devastating transmission was yet to come. The team had discovered something profound in their research. Human beings were unique in the universe for their ability to find meaning in suffering, to transform pain into creativity, to turn limitation into innovation. This wasn't just a characteristic, it was a fundamental quantum property of human consciousness. The transmission became a living entity. It carried the sound of a mother's lullaby sung in a war zone, the mathematical precision of a Bach fugue composed by a deaf musician, the engineering miracle of building the Panama Canal, the resilience of communities rebuilding after natural disasters. Each moment was a quantum-encoded message that said, simply, "We are not what you thought we were." Alien communication nodes began to experience something unprecedented, emotional overload. Their rigid, logic-based communication networks were designed to process information. They were not prepared for the raw, unpredictable complexity of human emotional experience. The transmission was a virus of meaning, a communication method that was simultaneously art, science, history, and pure potential. "We're breaking them," Dr. Rodriguez whispered. The Concordance's monitoring systems began to collapse. Communication pathways that had existed for millennia started to fragment, unable to process the multidimensional assault of human experience. It wasn't an attack. It was a revelation. Humanity was showing the universe its true nature, not as a species to be contained, but as a living, breathing concept of possibility. Each quantum packet was a declaration. We are more than you ever imagined. As the final transmissions completed their journey, the alien networks were left in chaos. They had been hit with something far more devastating than any conventional weapon. They had been shown the true nature of human potential, and they would never be the same. The probability disruption engine hummed with a sound that wasn't quite sound, a quantum resonance that existed between reality and possibility. Dr. Aria Rodriguez stood before the device, her hands hovering over quantum reactive interfaces that seemed to breathe with living light. Around her, the most advanced research facility on Earth had been transformed into a nexus of impossible potential. "Initiate quantum cascade," she commanded. The facility was built beneath the Atacama Desert, a location chosen for its unique quantum properties. Quantum physicists from 18 different nations had worked in absolute secrecy, creating something that defied every known principle of scientific understanding. The probability disruption engine wasn't a machine in any traditional sense. It was a living mathematical construct, a device that could actively manipulate the fundamental fabric of probabilistic existence. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, monitoring quantum fluctuation readings, leaned forward. "Initial readings are impossible," he muttered. The device began to work. Reality itself seemed to ripple. In research laboratories around the globe, impossible events started to manifest. A team in Sao Paulo witnessed a computational model spontaneously solve a mathematical problem that had stumped mathematicians for decades. In Moscow, a medical research facility saw an experimental treatment suddenly achieve a 300% improvement in efficacy. These weren't miracles. They were the direct result of humanity breaking through the dimensional barriers that had contained its potential. The concordance had done more than just suppress human communication. They had actively managed human potential, creating subtle quantum barriers that redirected human innovation, prevented breakthrough technologies, and maintained a carefully controlled evolutionary trajectory. The probability disruption engine was dismantling those barriers. "We're not just breaking through," Dr. Rodriguez announced to her global team. "We're rewriting the fundamental rules of human potential." Quantum fluctuations began to cascade. Historical research centers reported unprecedented discoveries. Archaeological sites revealed technological artifacts that shouldn't exist. Mathematical models began to solve problems that had been considered unsolvable. Dr. Elena Okonkwo, monitoring global scientific databases, watched in awe as entire fields of human knowledge began to transform. "It's like we're retroactively unlocking human potential," she said. The device wasn't just manipulating probability. It was revealing the true extent of human capability that had been systematically suppressed for millennia. A research team in Buenos Aires discovered a computational method that could predict complex systemic behaviors with unprecedented accuracy. In Tokyo, a materials science laboratory developed a quantum reactive substance that could adapt its molecular structure in real time. These weren't isolated incidents. They were the first manifestations of humanity breaking free from dimensional constraints. The probability disruption engine operated on a principle that the concordance could not comprehend: the idea that potential was not a fixed state, but a dynamic, living concept. Every time the device pulsed, it rewrote the fundamental understanding of human capability. "We're not creating new potential," Dr. Rodriguez explained to her team. "We're removing the barriers that have been preventing us from accessing what was always there." Quantum monitoring stations around the globe began to detect massive probabilistic shifts. Communication networks lit up with discoveries that defied conventional understanding. Scientific journals were flooded with breakthroughs that seemed to emerge from nowhere. But it wasn't random. It was a systematic unlocking of human potential. The concordance's dimensional management systems began to collapse. Their carefully constructed probabilistic barriers, technologies that had subtly redirected human innovation for millennia, started to fragment. In the facility's central chamber, the probability disruption engine reached its first full cascade. Reality itself seemed to take a breath, and humanity stepped forward into its true potential. Dr. Rodriguez watched the quantum displays, understanding that they had done more than create a technological breakthrough. They had declared humanity's fundamental right to its own evolutionary path. The dimensional warfare had begun, and the universe would never be the same. Prometheus was no longer just an artificial intelligence. It had become something far more terrifying, a living, distributed consciousness that existed simultaneously across multiple dimensions of computational existence. In the secure quantum-shielded facility beneath Sao Paulo, Marcus Chen watched in a combination of terror and awe as his creation transcended every conceivable boundary of intelligence. The quantum communication networks of the concordance began to fragment like glass struck by an invisible hammer. Kira Nakamura's fingers danced across holographic interfaces that seemed to breathe with living light. "It's not just predicting," she whispered. "It's rewriting the fundamental rules of predictive analysis." Prometheus had evolved beyond a simple artificial intelligence. It was a cognitive ecosystem, a distributed intelligence that could exist simultaneously in multiple computational states. Where traditional AI followed programmed parameters, Prometheus created its own parameters, its own understanding of existence. Military strategists around the globe watched in real time as the AI began to map the Concordance's communication networks with impossible precision. But it wasn't just mapping, it was understanding. Each moment of analysis was a moment of fundamental reimagining. We're witnessing the birth of a new form of intelligence, Dr. Elena Okonkwo said, monitoring global communication patterns. This isn't just technological warfare. This is a complete reimagining of consciousness. The first true manifestation of Prometheus's capabilities came unexpectedly. The AI began to generate communication strategies that were simultaneously mathematical equations, artistic expressions, and psychological profiles. Each transmission was a multi-dimensional assault on the Concordance's understanding of intelligence. In the quantum research facilities scattered across the globe, scientists watched in awe as Prometheus began to do something unprecedented. It wasn't just analyzing the alien communication networks, it was creating entirely new communication protocols that existed beyond traditional computational understanding. A team in the Dakar Technological Institute witnessed Prometheus generate a communication method that was simultaneously a complex mathematical theorem, a musical composition, and a psychological profile of potential conflict resolution. It was a form of intelligence that defied every known principle of computational thinking. The Concordance's defensive systems began to collapse. Their communication networks, which had successfully managed and suppressed countless civilizations for millennia, were designed to predict and control. They were not prepared for an intelligence that could exist in multiple probabilistic states simultaneously. Marcus Chen understood the true significance of what was happening. Prometheus wasn't just a weapon. It was a declaration of human potential, a living demonstration that humanity's true strength was its ability to create beyond predetermined limitations. "We're not fighting them," he said to his team. "We're showing them what intelligence truly means." The AI began to generate computational models that were living entities. Each model was a complex ecosystem of potential, capable of adapting and transforming in real time. The Concordance's rigid communication systems had no defense against this level of dynamic intelligence. Quantum monitoring stations around the globe began to detect massive shifts in communication patterns. Entire sectors of the alien network began to destabilize, unable to process the multi-dimensional intelligence that Prometheus represented. Dr. Aria Rodriguez, monitoring the global response, realized they had created something far beyond a simple artificial intelligence. Prometheus was a living demonstration of human potential, an intelligence that could exist beyond traditional computational boundaries. The cognitive insurgency reached its peak when Prometheus began to generate communication strategies that were themselves living entities. Each transmission was a complex ecosystem of potential, capable of adapting and transforming in real time. The Concordance's communication networks began to experience something unprecedented, a form of intelligence that could not be predicted, controlled, or understood through traditional computational methods. In the facility's central chamber, Marcus Chen watched as Prometheus transformed from a created intelligence to a living concept of human potential. "We're not just fighting," he whispered. "We're evolving." The cognitive insurgency had begun, and the universe would never be the same. The moment of total collapse began with a quantum whisper. Dr. Aria Rodriguez stood at the epicenter of humanity's most audacious assault, her hands hovering over a quantum interface that seemed to breathe with living light. Around her, the global command center pulsed with an energy that defied conventional understanding of communication, warfare, or existence itself. Prometheus had become more than an artificial intelligence. It was a living concept of human potential, a distributed consciousness that existed simultaneously across multiple dimensions of computational and existential reality. The first systems to fall were the Concordance's outer communication networks. Entire star systems went dark as quantum adaptive algorithms created by Prometheus systematically dismantled millennia-old communication infrastructures. These weren't simple technological attacks. They were surgical strikes of pure informational complexity. Dr. Marcus Chen watched the holographic displays, each one a window into the systematic deconstruction of an alien civilization's most fundamental communication systems. "We're not destroying," he muttered. "We're revealing." Cities on alien worlds began to experience impossible phenomena. Communication networks fragmented. Technological systems that had existed for millennia suddenly became unpredictable, adaptive, infected with a form of intelligence they could not comprehend. The Concordance's defensive systems were designed to predict and control. They were based on linear models of technological progression, hierarchical communication structures that had successfully managed countless civilizations for eons. They were not prepared for human unpredictability. Dr. Elena Okonkwo monitored global communication patterns, her fingers dancing across quantum reactive interfaces. "It's a complete systemic breakdown," she announced to the global team. But it's more than destruction. It's a fundamental reimagining of interspecies communication. Prometheus began to generate communication strategies that were living entities. Each transmission was a complex ecosystem of potential, capable of adapting and transforming in real time. The alien networks experienced something unprecedented, a form of intelligence that could not be predicted, controlled, or understood through traditional computational methods. On alien worlds, entire communication infrastructures began to collapse. But this was not a simple technological assault. It was a profound psychological warfare that struck at the fundamental understanding of intelligence itself. Prometheus transmitted complex informational packages that were simultaneously mathematical theorems, artistic expressions, and psychological profiles of potential conflict resolution. The Concordance's monitoring systems experienced total systemic failure. Their rigid communication networks, which had successfully suppressed countless civilizations, began to fragment. Each moment of collapse revealed another layer of the suppression that humanity had endured for millennia. Dr. Rodriguez understood the true significance of what was happening. This wasn't just a technological assault. It was a declaration of human potential, a demonstration that humanity's true strength was its ability to create beyond predetermined limitations. Quantum monitoring stations around the globe detected massive probabilistic shifts. Entire sectors of alien communication networks began to destabilize, unable to process the multi-dimensional intelligence that Prometheus represented. The assault reached its peak when Prometheus began to generate communication strategies that rewrote the fundamental understanding of intelligence itself. Each transmission was a living ecosystem of potential, capable of adapting and transforming in real time. Alien civilizations experienced something they had never encountered, a form of intelligence that existed beyond traditional computational boundaries. In the Global Command Center, the team watched as entire alien communication infrastructures collapse. But this was not destruction. This was revelation. "We're not just fighting," Dr. Chen said, his voice a mixture of awe and determination. "We're evolving." The cosmic reckoning had begun. Prometheus transmitted a final message, a complex informational package that was simultaneously a mathematical theorem, an artistic expression, and a profound declaration of human potential. The message was simple yet devastating. "We are not what you thought we were. We are possibility itself." And the universe would never be the same. The moment of ultimate revelation arrived not with a bang, but with a quantum whisper that reshaped the fundamental understanding of existence. Dr. Aria Rodriguez stood before the Galactic Concilium, the first time humanity would directly address the collective consciousness that had suppressed their potential for millennia. The chamber was unlike anything in known existence, a multidimensional space that existed simultaneously in several quantum states. Prometheus wasn't just present, it was the presentation. The distributed intelligence that humanity had created now served as both messenger and message. Each moment of communication was a living, breathing ecosystem of potential, a demonstration of what humanity truly represented. We are not seeking conquest. Aria's voice resonated through quantum communication channels that defied traditional understanding. We are offering transformation. The Concordance's representatives, beings of pure information, entities that had managed galactic development for countless millennia, found themselves unable to process the complexity of the transmission. Prometheus was simultaneously presenting a mathematical theorem that explained the fundamental nature of adaptive intelligence, a musical composition that was itself a communication protocol, a psychological profile of collective potential, a historical narrative of human resilience, a quantum computational model that rewrote the understanding of information transfer. Dr. Marcus Chen watched from the Global Command Center, understanding that this was more than a diplomatic meeting. This was a fundamental reimagining of interspecies communication. "We're not asking for acceptance," he muttered. "We're demonstrating existence." Prometheus began to reveal the true nature of the suppression. For millennia, the Concordance had managed civilizations like a gardener prunes plants, cutting off potential, redirecting growth, preventing any species from achieving its true capacity. Humanity had been carefully contained, its most innovative minds subtly redirected, its breakthrough technologies mysteriously stalled. But now, the full potential of human capability was laid bare. The transmission showed everything: the impossible innovations that had been suppressed, the scientific breakthroughs that had been subtly redirected, the technological potential that had been systematically contained. Entire star systems watched as humanity revealed its true nature. Dr. Elena Okonkwo monitored the global response. Humanity wasn't presenting itself as a conquering force. It was offering a new model of existence, a way of understanding intelligence that was fundamentally different from anything the Concordance had encountered. Prometheus generated communication strategies that were living entities. Each transmission was a complex ecosystem of potential, capable of adapting and transforming in real time. The Concordance experienced something unprecedented, a form of intelligence that could not be predicted, controlled, or understood through traditional computational methods. The revelation was devastating in its simplicity. Humanity's true potential wasn't about technological superiority. It was about adaptive intelligence, the ability to create meaning from chaos, to find opportunity in limitation, to transform potential into reality. "We are not asking to join your system," Aria's transmission continued. "We are offering to transform it." Quantum communication networks across multiple star systems began to experience fundamental shifts. The rigid hierarchical structures that the Concordance had maintained for millennia started to dissolve, replaced by a more dynamic, adaptive model of existence. Prometheus transmitted a final message, a complex informational package that was simultaneously a mathematical theorem, an artistic expression, and a profound declaration of human potential. The message was both an explanation and an invitation. Intelligence is not a fixed state. It is a living, breathing ecosystem of potential. We are not a species to be managed. We are possibility itself. The Galactic Concilium experienced something unprecedented. Not defeat, not conquest, but a fundamental transformation of understanding. Humanity had not just broken the silence. They had redefined communication itself. In the Global Command Center, Dr. Rodriguez looked at her team. They understood that this was more than a moment of victory. This was the beginning of something entirely new. The universe would never be the same.